Despite it being NFL draft time, we are back to talk college baseball here on College Baseball Done Better. I'm Greg Larnerd, along with the very handsome what we saw last night of the draft coverage on the Bettor Sports Network, Mr. Johnny VTV. What's up, brother?
Greg, just from one handsome guy to another. I don't know. Is this a handsome contest? Yeah, dude. You know, the NFL draft was great last night. We had a great show, talked a lot of picks. But you know what, man? To me, it's just not as good as college baseball, man. This is what I live for. This is why I stay home on the weekends instead of going out. I yell at my TV till like 1 a.m. watching Pac-12 games, and I can't get enough of it. How you doing?
Man, if I were any better, I would be you. So I'm fantastic. And our boy Griffin Merritt went off last night again. I know you wanted to tee me up for that interview, but man, we had a good conversation with him after he hit a walk-off last week against Vanderbilt. And my boy was up to it again last night against Mississippi State. We threw that up on one of our TVs in the living room, and that was a big swing from Griffin Merritt.
Dude, Griffin Merritt. And you know what? I gotta give, the word with G a little shout out here. You told me that you were interviewing Griffin Merritt in the middle of the week. I was so psyched. It was awesome. It was a great interview. And for anybody that doesn't know, Griffin Merritt was a transfer in from the University of Cincinnati. He was supposed to be a key piece for Tony Vitello in reshuffling this lineup after getting gutted in the draft last year. He's had some big moments, and he's starting to really catch fire. So
Also a handsome dude.
Handsome as well. Yes.
Yes.
I contribute that home run walk-off to you. That was you. Not only did they walk it off and avoid losing a game where they led 7-1, ultimately blew the lead, allowed Mississippi State to tie it, but they cashed my parlay. Tennessee was the last leg of my parlay. I was like, they're going to beat Mississippi State.
Sweating.
Big favorite. That came home. And you know what, man? I got to give the word with G a ton of credit. You're the reason why Griffin Merritt walked it off last night. So, round of applause for Greg Larnerd. I think that was very big. And, dude, let's keep going, bro. Tennessee, let's get hot one time. Like the 2022 Ole Miss Rebs.
That's right. Hey, get hot at the right time. They may have struggled throughout the regular season, but getting hot at the end of the year, they're really trying to figure it out. And that was one of the big things that Griffin Merritt talked about was they have just a bunch of new faces there. And it's taken a while for everybody to sort of mesh together with some of the holdovers they had last year that didn't really get much of an opportunity, to guys that are new into the building. And then you throw that all together with the pitching staff that seems a little bit more rejuvenated. Our boy Dolly went out there and dominated on the bump last week. So hopefully he can carry that through and have another solid start against Mississippi State on Friday tonight.
So for the first time, maybe all year, I was really proud of what Dolly did. He shoved against Vanderbilt last week, 7 innings, 1 run, I believe 8 strikeouts. He looked fantastic. So this was really the make or break inning that might be propelling his season, not to be so dramatic, but in the second inning, after Tennessee got a big lead in the first, I believe it was maybe 3-1 or 4-1 lead, Dolly goes back out for the top of the second against Vanderbilt. Bases loaded, nobody out. He gets worked into that jam. He gets himself out of it without giving up a run. And it's not only what he did, but it's how he did it. Something that we've been talking about for a long time. Dolly's a guy that lives off his fastball. He's got an elite fastball, profiles in the high 90s, sits probably 95 to 96, 97. And, for whatever reason, he's been throwing it way too much this season. But finally, he started working in his other pitches, his sliders, curveballs, changeup, all elite, by the way. So it didn't really make sense to me why he was sticking to just the fastball. In that inning, when he had predictable fastball counts from earlier in the year, he finally threw the slider, and that's what generated a lot of outs. From that point on, he had everything working, and I think if he continues to do that, he's going to get back to being the unhittable, incredible pitcher that he is. So I'm looking for Dolly to continue that. I'm just so impressed with him, and I think Tennessee, you can't bet them minus 240, but I think them in a parlay is the leg tonight against Mississippi State, and Caesars actually just hung some totals, not that we have on our board, but this game here is hanging a total of 13.5. I would take the under in this one. I think Dolly comes out for a big performance, and Tennessee probably sticks to about 7 runs, 8 runs, and they manage to win the game somewhere along the lines of like 8-2.
And speaking of Dolly, if you had, I know for me, if you had 95 to 98, I would be throwing that thing as well, as much as I can possibly throw it, because that's pretty damn hard.
Yeah, but these hitters, eh,
I
they've
get it.
seen
I
enough
get it. I
wins,
look, you
enough
gotta keep them
tape.
off balance and you gotta be a pitcher. I get it. But I'm just saying, like, man, you sometimes that heat is addictive a little bit. You think, hey, I can throw it past everybody, but you're right. You gotta be a little bit better of a pitcher and utilize the off-speed pitches, keep them off balance, work counts. And it just seemed like you're right. He hadn't done that a whole lot this year. And it's nice to see him finally get into that bag a little bit.
Yeah. So the thing with that is if Chase Dollander, the ace of the Tennessee Volunteer staff, can get back to what we were just talking about with mixing in his pitches more and complementing his fastball. And like he's a big strikeout guy, and he's got the capability to get you out in so many different ways. This was the guy I thought had a real chance to be the number one overall pick because, in my opinion, he is the best pitching prospect since Steven Strasburg. And obviously now with the unveiling of Paul Skeens, you could throw him into the mix as well. But because of the struggles, he was falling down maybe the draft board just a little bit and possibly maybe even going to be the third pitcher off the board. But if we continue to see this from Dollander over the next 5-6+ weeks, I think he's firmly back in that top 3, possibly top 2 overall for the MLB draft category.
Speaking of Paul Skeens, let's parlay that, pun intended, right to this game that we want to talk about next. Alabama, the Crimson Tide, they're the underdogs at the number 1 team, LSU. They're minus 235. Look, I know the Crimson Tide are unranked right now, but LSU's been losing some games they shouldn't be losing over the last couple of weeks. And I know it's kind of in the midweek with the Nichols to the Raging Cajuns, but LSU still ranked at the top there in the top 25 rankings, taking on the Crimson Tide. Talk to me about this one tonight.
Yeah, LSU joins the list of a couple of the big dogs for SEC that are monster favorites this weekend. And, Alabama was a team early in the year that was playing probably above their actual playing potential. And they were a top 25 team, and Alabama had some good wins early on. But, they've kind of, regressed to the mean here. And now you get Paul Skeens at home on a Friday night. This kid has just been dotting nonstop. He's had double-digit strikeouts in every single start this year, except for the one against South Carolina, where he had 8 because he only pitched 3 innings because of a big rain delay. I mean, this kid is insanely impressive. He probably, if LSU goes far enough, is going to have 200 strikeouts this year. He might challenge the all-time record of strikeouts in a single season of 234 set in 1977 from a Hawaii pitcher whose name is escaping me right now. But Skeens right now, with the way he's going, I expect him to shut down this Alabama Crimson Tide lineup, looking for 6 or 7 innings, 2 runs or less, tally up 10 or 11 strikeouts or more. And, I'm parlaying them with Tennessee. We're getting back to the Dolly Skeens parlay on a Friday night, a little how you doing. But furthermore, Alabama's got a solid pitcher in their own merit by the name of Luke Holman, who I think could hold his own against this elite LSU Tigers lineup. We're still not sure what's going on with Tommy White. He left last weekend's game on Sunday early with an undisclosed injury. Not sure if he's back in, so that's a major TBD. But the other play I like here, speaking of totals, is the 11.5 to the under. I think that's a little too high. I don't see Skeens giving up more than 3 runs at most, and especially if Tommy White's not in this lineup, I think LSU might be held to like 7 runs. So this could be probably something along the lines of like a 7-2 victory in favor of LSU. Win in the under. So that's where I'm going with this game.
All right, Johnny.
But
So
real quick,
I was going to ask
I-
you, tell me a little bit about some of the guys that are on these clubs that are guys that we could potentially be seeing in the MLB draft coming up here in a couple of months.
yeah. So obviously you have Paul Skeens, who has been the best pitcher in the country, bar none, this year. And you have Dylan Cruz, who hits piss missiles, who has been flirting with a 500 average all season long. Favorite for the Golden Spikes Award, along with Jack Caglione from Florida. The interesting thing here is Dylan Cruz is probably the consensus number 1 pick right now. Paul Skeens, for my money, would be 2, but I think they are interchangeable. Regardless of that order, something I found out when I was digging up, there have never in MLB draft history have been 2 players taken as the 1 and 2 picks. Never in MLB draft history. The closest we've gotten was in 2011 when Garrett Cole and Trevor Bauer went 1-3 out of LSU. So if this happens in 2023, this would set history. These are two of the best college baseball players to ever step foot on the field. Paul Skeens is a guy who I think can be on an opening day roster in 2024, and I think Dylan Cruz wouldn't be anywhere past 2025. I could see him being a September call-up, let's say, in 24. These are two guys who should get on the field right away for their major league teams. Two absolute outstanding savages.
Just to be clear, Garrett Cole and Trevor Bauer went to UCLA.
What'd I say?
You said LSU. I knew we were talking about LSU, but
yeah, UCLA,
I knew you knew
that's what I
that.
meant.
Yeah, I knew
sorry.
you knew they didn't go to LSU, but I wanted to clear that up just to make sure everybody knew that you knew they didn't go to LSU. But what about some other guys around the country that we really have to look out for? I know we talk a lot about Dolly and whatnot, and my man Griffin Merritt's not going to go to the draft. He wants to become a dentist. But what about some other guys that are across the country that we could look forward to possibly seeing in the MLB draft coming up, and big names here that we're going to watch in regionals, super regionals, the College World Series?
So, Wake Forest is a team that I've really followed closely. I have a lot of money on them, so I'm hoping that they pull out the College World Series win if Campbell or Coastal doesn't. But Rhett Lauder is a guy for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons who is their best pitcher. He has one of the best pitches in all of college baseball with a disgusting changeup. He's got the super long hair. He looks like he's straight out of Woodstock. But this guy has been unhittable all season long. He is hurt, not that they've really needed one, but when you need him in a big moment, he's there. Call Rhett, he's going to deliver, and he's working his way up. He was already a projected top 4 pitcher off the board, maybe top 5 preseason, but I think right now, the way he's been pitching, he's firmly entrenched in being the third arm off the board, possibly second if Chase Dollander fades a little bit and it doesn't what we expect him to do. So Rhett Lauder is the guy who I think is going to have a lot of success at the next level. He really knows how to pitch. He's got an arsenal of 3 pitches that he can throw for strikes, and he can throw early and often. And then staying with Wake Forest, their third baseman, Brock Wilken, who is going to be a Golden Spikes candidate to watch. He just set the Wake Forest all-time record with home runs with 59. He's batting .330 with 19 home runs and 55 RBIs on the year. And this is the guy who's batting on arguably the best lineup in the nation. This Wake Forest offense is elite. So I think Brock Wilken really helped his draft stock this year. This is a guy that we might see in the top 20 because I don't think he was even going to be a first rounder, preseason. And just the way he's played, it's impossible to ignore. So I'm looking for Brock to be a guy that's going to be possibly inside the top 20, maybe even top 15. And last but not least, I want to stay with the third baseman, Yohandy Morales out of Miami. This is a guy I fell in love with last year. He is a big, strong athlete that hits towering shots, and he plays pretty good goddamn defense at third base. He had a pretty good year last year, but he put on about 20 pounds of muscle to add to that 6'4" frame. And now he's just playing in a different stratosphere this year. This kid hits for average. He hits for power. He's a leader in the clubhouse. He plays great defense. He is the catalyst of the Miami Hurricanes, who are currently a top 25 team. I think if Miami goes anywhere this year, it's going to be on the back of Yo-Yo Morales. This is a kid I would expect to see in the top 15, maybe even top 12 in July with a strong finish.
By the way, Rhett Lauder reminds me a lot of either Jacob deGrom or Dustin May with maybe a little bit more lettuce in the back.
Yeah.
All right. Well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say Rhett Lauder, he's got to do something about that hair. He's got like the long hair with the baby face. I don't know. If he goes to a team that has any kind of, issues with the hair like the Yankees, not that he would fall that far, but he's going to have to cut that thing.
Well, how about the NFL draft? Just to kind of interrupt the baseball talk for a second, the Bettor Sports Network app has the best NFL draft experience you're going to find. Join us tonight to follow all the picks, chat with the fans, play our live draft game as well. Get instant fantasy football and betting analysis as the picks are announced, answer predictive questions, and compete for your chance to win a 1-of-1 Brock Purdy augmented reality trading card. That's pretty cool. Pre-draft coverage tonight begins at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The 2023 NFL Bettor Cast. Download the Bettor Sports Network app for free right now in the Google app store or the Google Play Store as well. And follow along on social media at Bettor Network. John, are you going to be back on there tonight?
I'm not sure yet. I haven't been asked. I'm game. I'm probably just going to be deep into the college baseball, pacing around my living room, yelling at the TV. Really, that's what a Friday night is for me, and I love it. I'd much rather do that than go out. But you know what? It makes it worth it when the play hits. When the play hits, dude, I don't
No
care.
better feeling.
No better feeling. Now, I have a couple early games, so maybe if those hit, go out, slug a few beers. I can't watch Stanford anyway, actually. So a lot of the Pac-12 games I can't watch because they have their own network. Like, there's not enough networks going on that you need subscriptions to. Like, dude,
Of course.
nobody is subscribing to Pac-12 baseball unless you're on the West Coast or you have a kid that plays for the team. Like, there's enough. Like, you have ESPN Plus, you have all these different channels. Like, stop with all the different subscriptions. I'm tired of it. I don't want it. I am an avid college baseball person, and I'm not buying it. So I just have to follow along on the live stat tracker and the Twitter accounts that don't update tweets that often in order to see my results.
It's agonizing. How did they ever do it back in the day when they had no streaming services? You had to wait to the next day to see the scores in the newspaper.
Oh, dude, that's brutal. I couldn't imagine
Brutal.
trying to. Could you imagine trying to be to bet or do fantasy
No.
in that age where like you don't know anything? It's like we're so used to information, instantaneously, and we'd be like, all right, we set our lineups and like, all right, well, let's see how we do tomorrow.
And then
Like,
you gotta go through, you gotta, like, do it by hand, like, manually add up all the stats with the yards and the points and the touchdowns. So, wait, how much is an interception worth? Oh, okay. Going through all of it, it would be every single step. But let's get back to the college baseball here. Let's stick in the SEC. Let's go to the Auburn Tigers, who are underdogs at number 3 South Carolina. You mentioned it, a lot of big favorites this week in the SEC. Here's another one.
yeah, the Ray Cox coming off a clean sweeperoo against the Florida Gators. South Carolina vaulted themselves from the number 6 seed to the number 3 seed over the span of 1 week, thanks to a huge sweeperoo. Now they get an Auburn team who's really not impressive offensively. They're nothing that I'm scared about. Pitching wise, nothing I'm scared about. You have Will Sanders going on the mound for South Carolina tonight, and they're in theory is nothing to worry about. This is a South Carolina team that could put up 15 runs in any given night. Their pitchers are elite. They have a top 3 team ERA in the entire nation. The one bugaboo, the one thing that I would say to watch out for, Will Sanders has had the tendency to step up for these big games like Florida, LSU, the top teams that he knows he's got to be on his A game. But then against some of these like okay opponents, not top 25, not as meaningful on paper, a team like Auburn, he just like goes through the motions. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I think South Carolina wins. They're in a parlay. I'm confident about it. That's the one area that I would look out for. If Will Sanders gets roughed up a little bit or he starts walking a lot of guys, it would not surprise me. Like Will Sanders and South Carolina cannot lose focus because they're playing Auburn. This is where they have to be playing their best baseball right now because we're about 3 weeks away from the conference tournaments. And that's really what's going to propel you and slingshot them into contention to making a run at this thing if they want to win it all. So I think South Carolina is the side here. They should win convincingly against a dreadful Auburn Tigers team.
How about a team that you just mentioned they swept, the Florida Gators? You think they get back on the rebounding trail against a very scrappy Missouri Tigers team this weekend?
Dude, I hate Mizzou. I actually can't stand Mizzou. They're horrible.
Parlay
They're
busters.
terrible. So out of all the big favorites, I would say Florida's my least confident. And don't get me wrong, I think Florida finds a way to pull this out, but Mizzou does not go away. They are especially tough if you let them hang around, like Vanderbilt did, like Tennessee did. And Brandon Sproat threw a really good game for Florida against South Carolina last week. All the unraveling on that Friday or Thursday game happened after he left. So, if Sproat can go and repeat that performance, I would feel good. But the issue is Florida's bullpen is terrible. And I've been saying it for months. It's not good. Yes, they get their closer, Brandon Neely, back off a 4-game suspension. But I'll say this. If the Gators don't score a lot of runs early, and this is like a 2-run game in like the 7th inning, I'd be sweating a little bit because Mizzou's throwing their best guy, Chandler Murphy, who's pretty solid. He doesn't throw fireballs, but he's got a good mix of a changeup and knows how to pitch in and out. So if Florida thinks they're going to come out here and just, play laissez-faire, they're in for a rude awakening. But after getting swept, I do think the Gators are the right side. They're in a parlay for me, but I do think Mizzou's going to take one game this weekend. I just don't know
Oh,
which
yeah.
one it is.
Yeah, they definitely will find a way. They're a scrappy bunch. They'll find a way to make it tough on Florida, and they'll find some way, which makes putting Florida in a parlay a little bit dangerous because you just don't know. It's like Russian roulette. You just don't know which game they're going to come out there and beat Florida. Let's stick in the SEC and let's talk about a game or a matchup that is at least predicted to be a little bit closer here in terms of the line and whatnot. Number 15, Kentucky, traveling to number 5, Vanderbilt. What do you think about this game?
The Vandy boys just got mopped themselves. They got blown out by Tennessee last weekend. A much needed rebound for the Volunteers, and Vanderbilt is finally showing that they're human after all. And I had a lot of questions about Vanderbilt coming into the year. I didn't think they were legit. I didn't think they have a real shot to win it all. I might have been half wrong about that, but after last weekend, we kind of saw that this team is beatable. Their offense is not that good. They've been getting some insane production from a few guys. Enrique Bradfield Jr. hasn't even been that great this year. He's been good, but not to the level we've been accustomed to. A freshman like Chris Maldonado, alumni of my high school, thank you very much, Seton Hall Prep out of New Jersey.
Hell yeah.
He's been swinging an unreal bat. He's probably been their most consistent offensive player. You're getting some production from like Parker Nolan and RJ Schreck and Davis Diaz and RJ Austin, but ultimately here, I think Carter Holton on the mound, who threw really well last weekend, is primed for another good start against a Kentucky team that they're another scrappy bunch. They don't have any superstars, nobody that stands out. They're not going to have a first round or nothing like that, but they play really well as a unit and they just hang around. I think ultimately, though, Vanderbilt with Holton on the mound will take game one because they got swept last weekend, and they really need to get back into the win column because if they start fluttering a little bit, then it's going to open up the door for other teams to take charge and steal the SEC from them. So I think Vanderbilt minus 160 is the price here. I would say maybe the 11.5 is a tad high. I'm going to stay off the total here, but Kentucky will probably take one game, and I would think that's tomorrow with Hunter Owen returning for the Commodores.
All right, so we'll be on the Commodores on this one. Let's go to the old Fun Belt, as they call it. One of your favorite teams in all of college baseball is playing tonight. The number 6th ranked Coastal Carolina Chanticleers at my former team, the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Matt Deggs got this group and this squad playing some good brand of baseball lately. They are 20-7 at home. Do you smell a little bit of an upset like we saw against LSU, recently, or do the Chanticleers go in there to Lafayette and Russo Park and MLT Moore Field, which is a beautiful ballpark if you've never been there? Do they take care of business tonight in Lafayette?
I just gotta say, I love the way you say Chanticleers. You ever see I Love You, Man? Where he's like, I love to watch chocolat. You mean chocolate? Like,
Yeah.
but no, listen, I kind of thought that there's an upset waiting to happen in this series with Louisiana Lafayette. They are not as good as we've seen in years past, mainly last year, but they're still always a dangerous team. This is not a cakewalk by any stretch of the imagination for Coastal. But after Coastal getting mopped by Wake Forest, putting on a pitching clinic of how not to pitch against the Demon Deacons, I think they understand the urgency that they can't get too comfortable in the 6th seed. There's a lot of reasons why they shouldn't be the 6th seed, despite their record and how good their offense is. I think they get back to business. They lock this one down with Matthew Podak on the mound, who is also a New Jersey native. And they cash a nice fat minus 160 for Johnny VTV. Louisiana Lafayette will take one game here. I just don't think it's today. Louisiana Lafayette is not – they're not on the same level as Coastal Carolina. And getting blown out the way they did on Tuesday night just, keeps that fire going, keeps them on their toes, make sure they're not too comfortable. So Triple C should, in fact, cash a ticket for me tonight.
Also, don't let anybody hear you from the Raging Cajun world down there calling it Louisiana Lafayette. They will get very upset with you. It is
Why?
Louisiana, or it's UL.
How about Double L?
No, can't call them Double L
Yeah, well, you
because
know what?
they are the University of Louisiana.
Unfortunately for them, I'll call it whatever I damn well
Cajun
please.
country, baby. Don't mess with those Cajun, man. They are a spiteful group. If they hear you slandering their name, they're gonna come for you, and I'm gonna lead them right to your mentions.
Excuse you.
I will lead them right
You're
there.
supposed to be on my side. You're gonna
Not when
lead
you
the Raging
disrespect my
Cajuns to
old
me?
home. Not when you disrespect my old home. I am an
Yeah, well, let's
honorary
see what they
Cajun,
got.
baby.
Let's
Look
see
at
what they
this.
got.
Look, I'm
You know
telling
what?
you, I got the pepper right on the jersey, right on
If
the
the
shirt.
Raging Cajuns win today, I'll probably be hearing it a lot. So let's
I
hope
hope
Coastal.
so. I will lead them right to your mentions.
Did I tell you? By the way, in terms of the futures market, I hammered Coastal at 200 to 1 twice in 1 week. Line gets cut in half to 100 to 1. Now it's down to 80 to 1.
Damn
That's hashtag value, bro. That's
value.
value, bro. Like, it was crazy, right? Because I hammered it. I tweeted about it. I went on VSiN and I talked about it. And then boom, the next day we're cut in half. Johnny VTV
They're
out here moving
listening.
lines. And,
They're listening.
Coastal, if they're pitching, can meet their hitting halfway, which is a big if right now. They're going to be a tough out because they could score on pretty much anybody.
This man's got a direct line to Vegas, so lock in at _Johnny VTV. All right, last two games we got to talk about quick here. Let's go to a ranked matchup. Number 20, the Duke Blue Devils traveling to the Virginia Cavaliers. What do you like about this matchup?
Yeah, Virginia is also on my you-know-what list. I don't bet them. They're a bunch of frauds. Let's just call it what it is.
Blacklisted.
I'm not saying because they hosed me and I bet on them in a parlay against Pitt a couple weeks ago and they lost on Friday night. But the fact is, Virginia was always overrated. They only have 3 true studs on this team. That's their ace Friday guy who's throwing tonight, Brian Edgington, who's been getting bombed lately. And they have Jake Geloff, younger brother of Oakland A's stud, Zach Geloff, and Kyle Teal, possibly the best catcher in this draft. So without those guys, Virginia's not going very far. And even with them, it requires a team in order to win. I think Duke is probably my favorite upset play of the day at plus 145. Duke's not that good, but they're finding ways to win games. They're kind of hitting their stride a little bit. We're possibly even talking about Duke hosting a regional, which I never would have imagined in a million years. So I think at plus 145, it's too good of a price not to nibble on. I think Duke will take the series here. And even against Brian Edgington, you can't give me plus 145 and expect me not to take it. If Duke was like plus 110, I probably wouldn't bother. But at this number, we have to take Duke. They're on my card, full unit play. Your Honor, no objections.
Let's nibble on it. Also, let's nibble on best ball season because best ball fantasy football season starts immediately after the NFL draft on Fantasy Alarm and the Bettor Sports Network. Get expert advice to draft winning teams, including strategies, rookie profiles, player rankings, average draft position data, and so much more. Starting Monday, compete against your favorite BSN and Fantasy Alarm hosts every week in best ball drafts. Get in the huddle and start drafting best ball teams on Underdog Fantasy. Visit fantasyalarm.com/underdog fantasy and use promo code Fantasy Alarm when signing up to receive 100% deposit match up to 100 bones. So that is good. Get in on the best ball season. It is right around the corner. And college baseball season's here, and we're kind of coming to the end of that almost. We got one more game to talk about. It's an 8th ranked Stanford Cardinals team going up against the UCLA Bruins. What do you like about this one?
Pac-12 baseball is not really my cup of tea, but typically Friday nights is where I bet Stanford. There's a couple Pac-12 games on. It's a mess out there, dude. And I want to take teams like Oregon and Oregon State tonight and, go along that route. Maybe Washington, but I'm going to keep it simple because when I start dabbling in Pac-12, it usually is trouble for me. So Stanford, a team that I don't love, They have a really great Friday guy by the name of Quinn Matthews, 6'5" lefty. He's got a really good arsenal. He is just lights out. So for me, getting them at -130 at home with him on the mound is like almost free money. They're going against UCLA, who has been overrated all year. They've been ranked when they shouldn't have been ranked. In the futures market, they've been towards the top to win it all when they really have no shot. Their pitcher going tonight, Jake Brooks, he's like okay. He's in my opinion, a Pac-12 number 2, not an ace, and that's saying a lot because most of the Pac-12 starters, the Friday night guys, won't be Friday night guys on any other team in like the SEC or ACC. Neither here nor there. Going against UCLA and Jake Brooks, who doesn't throw hard, he throws off-speed stuff, tries to mix pitches. I think Stanford should put it on the Bruins tonight for a comfortable win at home. And that is on my play as a full unit, single leg, non-parlay, just straight bet. And let's get this one home.
Let's get it home. Let's take it home. Hopefully, we can get the people a little bit of money this Friday evening. Johnny, it's always good to chop it up with you, my man. Enjoy the weekend. Find me again on Twitter, as you see there, at _Johnny VTV. And for me, it's at Greg Larnerd. This has been another edition of College Baseball Done Better. And we also want to say thank you to Jared Moore behind the scenes, pushing the buttons, making us look and sound good. It's not a hard job for him. And in our instance, Johnny, making us look good. But it is a hard job dealing with us each and every week. And my tardiness, because I'm jumping right off my show to this one. So I apologize as always. Have a great weekend, brother. And we'll catch you next Friday right here on the Bettor Sports Network. This has been College Baseball Done Better.